Stop the cap.
All right, let's get into the politics. It's funny as I kind of touched on this video the other day. I think I was driving, so the video was short. If you notice, I've been posting these little shorter videos. Um, but I just made a video earlier in the day. Just talking about my frustration with the women and how I'm just so done with these fucking evil black man conversations. But anyway, getting on to the politics, somebody wanted me to address this exchange between Jimmy Dore and Cornel West. And I watched the review by Vanguard. Vanguard is, I don't know, two white guys. They're got a smaller channel, got about 27,000 views, or 27,000 subs, I'm sorry. And I'm not gonna lie, hearing two white guys kind of, like, not gaslight, and throw up the same type of counters that a black person would, was refreshing. I cannot deny that shit was refreshing. It's like hearing Ann Coulter when she talks about reparations for slavery and Jim Crow. People can, a lot of black people don't like Ann Coulter, because she espouses conservative views, but Ann Coulter has my respect because consistently, unlike many people on either side of the political spectrum, Ann Coulter has been consistent about reparations for slavery and Jim Crow when it comes to African Americans. She has been consistent about that, and not only consistent about that, but consistent about excluding other people. It's not a rainbow coalition. This reparations, are for African Americans, those descendant of slaves. Why did I bring up that? Was the reason I brought that up. But anyway, the politics. Listening, I remember what I was saying. Yeah, because it was refreshing hearing these two white guys talk about the shit. And I didn't know Jimmy Dore was on what Jimmy Dore was on. I didn't know, like, I've noticed this thing going on with the left, and I do agree with some aspects of the people on the left, like the political pundits. Like, I think there's several clips of Anna Kasparian going off, about the whole thing about identity politics and basically how Democrats are supposed to be, the party of the working people. And we've all talked about the stagnant wages, and we've talked about the unaffordable cost of living, inflation, the price of housing, student debt. We've talked about, how the boomers have basically robbed the country. They control 53% of the nation's wealth, while millennials only control 5%. Zillennials control less than that. Even the silent generation controls, like, I think it's 17%, something like that. And I think the Gen Xers are somewhere like 23% or something like that. In any event, when it comes to this conversation with Cornel West, first off, let me say the way that interaction ended was horrendous. It's like, two grown ass men, intellectuals, and it wasn't Cornel West's fault. It was really, Jimmy Dore's, fault. And just the way that he just kind of like ran Cornel West off the show because Cornel West pushed back on the point that he made about identity politics. And I've warned and criticized about this, especially when it comes to black women, where we were supposed to have a black agenda. It's supposed to be about a black agenda. It's supposed to be about getting Democrats on code because they can't win an election, without us. Right? Even this whole thing with the Somalian girl getting hit on the head. I hear black women talking about, black women need to arm themselves and defend themselves. I'm like, you all are the number one group that go out here and you vote Democrat and you screaming gun control all the damn time. You know, the way that the gun laws are in New York, you know, because that's where a lot of your liberal-minded, you know, black women are. You can't conceal carry. They do everything in their power to make sure that you don't have access to guns. Meanwhile, the criminals, Ray Ray and Pookie, all that, have access to guns. So even when black women talk about protecting themselves, it's like they cut their nose off to spite their face. If they don't want to vote for the Republicans, like I've said numerous times before, why don't you tell the Democrats to take gun control off the table, since they can't win without the black vote, since black people vote at over 90% for the Democrats. You know, I think it was like 98% for black women, and it was like 89% for African Americans, something like, or for black men or something like that. Right, because there is a gender, you know, discrepancy. And I'm going to get into that, you know, in a minute. I think it might have been lower. It might have been like 92% for black women. I forget what it was. You know what I mean? But it's over 90%. And black men, I think, are like just below that at like 89%. But, you know, the one of the things that the white guys pointed out, and I'm so glad they pointed it out, because it is an ongoing problem. No, first off, the whole putting black people's issues in the identity politics lane and category, and I talked about this before, you know, this conflating, you know, and I do, you know, blame and hold black women accountable, you know, for a lot of that. You know, everything from, you know, the, you know, Black Lives Matter, and the shift from it being about, you know, black people, or specifically black men, because we disproportionately get, you know, killed by police unjustly, unarmed, and all that stuff, to being about the LGBT community. And I saw this back, you know, when Black Lives Matter first kicked off, and you go to their website, and it was talking about her story, and it was bringing up all this, the patriarchy and trans women and everything else like that. Like, I already knew. Like, I'm like, yo, this is a psyop. This is a bait and switch. And again, the black women who either got, you know, problems with black men, you know, problems with patriarchy, they're feminist. They have what's the terminology? They have you know, that whole thing we just talked about with the, you know, the jealousy of the myth of the white woman, the myth of white womanhood, you know, and they want to have access to, you know, that whole identity, you know, of white women, which they can't have in a, you know, racist nation, and they get angry at black men, you know, about that, which, like I said, I don't have a problem with black women having a problem. I don't have a problem with black women wanting the myth of white womanhood, and I don't have a problem with black women being angry at black men for not establishing or creating a system, right, where they can, you know, basically, you know, have the equivalent of that. But what I do blame black women for is I blame them for the ways in which they undermine black men from being in that sort of position, because they run around here with all these sort of, you know, feminist ideas and feminist ways of thinking, where they don't want men to be ahead. And that's going to lead me into the next topic, you know, when it comes to, you know, this next election cycle, and how, you know, the left went crazy with the LGBT shit. Everybody should be gay. Straight men, you know, they got, you know, they're not down with that. You know, additionally, the attacks on manhood, the attacks on masculinity, the idea that, you know, everything about manhood and masculinity is toxic and problematic, you know, because the left wants to cater to, you know, all these empowered women, right? And, you know, that's where the left is going to lose, you know, the men, right? And so when I look at, you know, the two parties, you got Republicans on one side, you got Democrats on the other side, right? The Republicans appear to be in support of family. And I say appear to be, right? I mean, even now, I mean, I just saw a clip of Brett Cooper addressing, you know, passport bros, Okay, the white society, white supremacy has a major problem on its hands when it comes to men, especially white men. I don't think they particularly care about black men, but I'm saying it's an across the board issue. The black community was the canaries in the coal mines, right? We've been disenfranchised, marginalized, right? You can't really have a strong patriarchy if the men are not producing and providing more than what the women can provide for themselves. Or if you have a situation where the government comes through and undermines the men by giving the women subsidies and resources and housing and all that other stuff. Because then eventually the women say, we don't need you, right? And, the same thing is essentially happening in the white community where, got this decline of, white males. They Mary Kay, what's her name? Hoimowitz. She wrote a book about it. There's been tons of books written about the failing boys. You have, obviously the red pill, the black pill, the incels, the mass shooters that we see, all these, disgruntled white males, and, how they dive into all these different factions, right? They either shut down, they're on some passport bro shit, they either on some mass shooter type of shit, or, when I say shut down, they meaning they just leave the dating market. They just go off and find different hobbies and stuff like that. Or they embrace radical movements, militias, white supremacist groups, anything that they feel is going to give them a positive male identity, right? In a world that, seems to hate men more and more, and especially if you're a white male, right? Because black people are having conversations about reparations and white supremacy, and then the feminists are saying, oh, the problem is the white male, and right? And so they're hearing it from white women, they're hearing it from black people, right? And so white men are they're running around angry, and this is why, even when you look at it now, if you look, you would think, right, that the white supremacists that go off and go on these rampages, you would think that they would be white men that would be 50 plus, right? That grew up in a different era. But what we see are white guys that are 20 years old that are going and committing mass shootings like Buffalo, and committing mass shootings like AME Church and the Dollar General down there in Jacksonville. And I've had to tell several people, I'm like, you got to remember that, these guys don't understand the racism and white supremacy in this country, because when they were born, for half of their life, they saw, even though we know he's biracial, they saw what appeared to them to be a black man as president of the United States. That's what they saw growing up. And then the first white man that they got to see as the president was Donald Trump. You know what I mean? So you go from a well-mannered black man to the antics of Donald Trump. And then, and then they're hearing all this stuff about black people bitching about racism and white supremacy, and in their mind, it doesn't make any sense. They're like, what are you talking about? We just had a black president for 8 years. He got reelected. What are you all talking about, right? So understanding the history of racism and white supremacy in this country doesn't really resonate with them. Then you throw in, some of the stuff that's going online on social media, black guys having Riz and game, and the way in which black men seemingly have a higher black male masculinity than white men because of street culture. Right? I've said it before. The only time you really see a masculine white man nowadays is if he's a Marine, a biker, or what else? I can't think of anything else. A Marine or a biker. There's only time, or one of these fitness gurus or something like that, right? And we all know more than half of them are doing steroids, right? Which is why we see them expiring prematurely, dying at 30. Right? From aneurysms and brain aneurysms and heart attacks and all other type of shit. Because they're putting all this stuff in their body, trying to catch up to the ideal of what a black man is. I know, because I've seen the comments. They joke in the comment section. They'll be like, making jokes about black men and their physique, and how like they'll have a guy that's like fit, and they'll be like, this is a black guy. I have the body of a black man after working out for 3 days. Ha 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 ha. Make all these jokes. So there's a lot of white men that feel insecure about the black man's physique and sexuality, right? And desirability. That's always been a thing. That's why you seen all this homoeroticism when it came to, lynching a black man. Oh, we got to cut his penis off, and we got to, do some homoerotic shit. We got to sodomize, but before we kill him, we got to sodomize him. You know what I mean? Like homoerotic shit. There's some weird stuff going on with white men. Hate to say it, but it's been that way. All the shit that they engage in, cuckolding and all that, oh, it's a power play. Let me get this black guy to fuck my wife, and I'm going to watch it and film it and masturbate to it, right? Weird shit. They always been on some weird shit. That's not what this video is about. I'm just saying. There's something that goes on with white males and sexuality and inferiority complexes and jealousy and penis envy that I can make a whole separate video on, when it comes to that. But I'm just saying that overall sentiment of, again, the idea that white men are evil and they're the problem and they're the oppressor, and then you throw in, a lot of the feelings and sentiments of sexual impotence. And then you throw up, the things that that trigger them, like interracial sex jokes, websites like blacked.com, interracial porn on the internet, some of the crazy wild things that I've seen from these white women saying when they're doing street interviews on like Bourbon Street on TikTok, all this openly, I want black men, but then but then like the other criteria that they throw out when it comes to white men, he must make, $300,000 a year. Going back to, the guy that I told you all about that said that he felt like black men are cheating the system, whereas a white man, he has to live up to what it is to be a white man and provide and all that, where a black man, he can just come through with swag. I personally feel like this is important because I feel like it ties into a lot of the racial animosity. And this was written about by Gail Dines in an article called King Kong and the White Woman, where she talked about Hustler magazine and the way that they made, poked fun at, poor and working class white men and made them feel sexually inadequate. And again, it's another psyop to basically get, poor white men to not align themselves on some Bacon Rebellion shit with black men, because that's not something that the elites want. So they have to constantly maintain this conflict between white men and black men by making black men a sexual threat. So the black man is always a sexual threat. He'll steal your wife, he'll fuck your daughter, right? Even if that's not the case. But they put stuff like that in the media and on social media, and white men feel some type of way about that, right? And this is where the white guys typically will jump up and they'll say, it's the Jews, that's their master plan, right? They'll come up and they'll cry that, because anytime you want to point out, that it's, the system of white supremacy and it's class warfare, they always want to go to another group. This is why I think that a lot of, white men are dangerous to black people, because they'll even though it's their system, they control the banks, they control the Fortune 500 companies, they control everything. Like, black people are making demands, but it's white men that control the overwhelming, the vast majority of the infrastructure. And they always want to deflect to Jewish people, right, instead of addressing the areas in which they do control, the media, all that type of stuff. They always want to find some group to scapegoat to. You know what I mean? So when it comes to, I don't know why white women are on what they're on, it's because of black men and hip hop music. when it comes to, you know, why their employer doesn't want to pay them as much, it's because of the Mexicans coming across the border. When it comes to what's being portrayed in the media, it's because of the Jewish people, right? So they always got to find some angle, some people to blame. When it comes to why the government shut down during COVID, it's because of Asian people, right? It's because of the Chinese. Right? It's so they never look in the mirror and realize that there's a class warfare going on internally within, you know, white society. They just don't look at it that way. And even if they do, you end up with the white folks that got this, you know, well, I'm going to get mine first, you know, type of mentality. Where just like what those two guys on Vanguard were talking about with Jimmy Dore, you know, it's kind of like, you know, yes, we acknowledge your issues, black people, gays, LGBT, trans, and everything else, because we want your vote. But we acknowledge them. We recognize you. We again, symbolism. But when it comes to actually doing something, oh no, oh hell no, we ain't doing shit. We ain't doing nothing to correct any of this stuff. No, sir, we're not. That's not what we're going to do. We just need you to come out and vote. You know, reparations is not. That's not a winnable issue, or that's not a winnable policy, right? And truth be told, it's not a winnable policy because, you know, again, I mean, you look at the pushback on CRT and actually telling real history. You know, these folks don't want it because they know that what that's going to lead to. It's going to lead to white guilt. It's going to lead to, damn, I didn't even realize we did that shit. And then people are going to start reevaluating. You know, either that or they're going to demonstrate that they're not real Christians, or they don't have true compassion, or just how racist they are. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance that comes into play when it comes to, you know, talking about reparations and whatnot. You know, and it's like, you know, even if like example, like I try to draw parallels like with men and women. Like feminists will be like, well, men should give women reparations for all the times that men have raped women, right? Or something like that. Right, and try to make it like a man thing, and then, you know, so, you know, drawing parallels between that and reparations. The key difference here is that, you know, when you're talking about slavery and Jim Crow and the system of white supremacy, white people that it didn't even involve themselves in slavery still were the beneficiaries of the fruits of slavery and the fruits of that unequal system. I mean, America came to be a superpower because of the free labor that they were getting from black people. You know, which lasted pretty much all the way up, you know, into the 40s. You know, with black people sharecropping, Jim Crow, okay, slavery by another name. You know, put them in chain gangs, come up with vagrancy laws, round up and lock up as many black people as you can, and then we'll forcibly extract labor from them, which is the whole thing with convict leasing and debt peonage. So, you know, it's slavery by another name, mass incarceration. But what was I gonna say about the whole thing about the family thing? Let me get back to the family thing. You know, I get on conservatives about their bullshit because they'll bring up the Bible and religion and Christianity and say, oh, it's about family and all that is just a tool to get people to fall in line and behave without them actually having the resources. You know, conservatives want to make everything about behavior, because when you make everything about behavior, then you don't have to deal with policy, right? Oh, if you're poor, you're poor because of your mindset. Oh, if you don't have this, you can't afford a house, it's because you're not saving hard enough. You know, change your behavior in terms of how you spend your money, and then you'll be able to, you know, afford a house. You know, and it's like, the math ain't mathin'. Average salary $56,000, average price of a home $430,000. The math ain't mathin'. But they always want to make it about behavior, and it's easier for them to do that against, you know, black people, you know, who they'll say, oh, they're pathological, and then again, no CRT, so no contextualizing history. of all the things that were done to the black community to keep the black community behind: redlining, blockbusting, Jim Crow, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO, dumping drugs in the black community, CIA, Iran-Contras, 1994 crime bill. If I didn't say assassination of black leaders, assassination of black leaders, low appraisals on homes, predatory lending, 1955 Highway Commission Act, running highways through the black community, demolishing black neighborhoods, right? Then stuffing everybody in projects, right? Letting immigrants come in, giving them loans and the ability to set up businesses and operate in the black community, but not in the white community, right? All of these things to cripple the black community. So as far as I'm concerned, as I've said, America has the black people it deserves. America they had an opportunity right after World War II. They had an opportunity to make America a more fair and equitable society, but they didn't do it. That whole thing that they did with the Levitt towns and building, suburbs and making them exclusive for white people and racial housing covenants and all that other stuff, that created the divide of economic wealth that you see in this country. If you live in a neighborhood that appraises and the property value goes up, I mean, again, it's said about the boomers. They go and they buy a house for, freaking, I don't know, $97K back in the 70s, and now that same house is worth $700,000 or something crazy, and they didn't even make any improvements to it. And you as a millennial are supposed to come in and buy it, right? That is wealth creation, right? I mean, let me take the race out of it, and instead of talking about black people and what black people weren't allowed to buy into, let's just talk about the boomers versus millennials. And that type of, price inflation on the damn houses. So if you exclude black people from being able to buy in, back in the 70s and even before that, because the Levittowns, the Pennsylvania Levittown, that was built in 1947. And even now, you go over there, go on Zillow and type in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Those houses were built in 1947. And they won, I think the average price over there is like $340. I want to say last time I checked, it might have gone up. But last time I checked, it was like $340, $350 over there. And those houses are like 70 years old. Who wants to buy a 70-year-old house for $350,000 that probably needs a new roof and new plumbing and new electrical whatever, right? New carpet. New granite countertops in the kitchens and tiled floors and everything else, because the shit is just outdated. But I'm saying if we can see it versus white millennial versus boomer, then clearly black people are not just making shit up if they were excluded from that process. Because see, when you have a home and that appreciates in value like that, that's your collateral. Then you can go to the bank and then you can take out, home improvement loans. You can go to the bank. You can take out, loans, or take out the equity of your home and then take that equity and send your kids to college. You can take out that equity and you can start small businesses. All these things that white people. So having that house and having that home, allows you to do multiple things, other than just simply, live in the house and be in the house. It allows you to do several things, make moves. And this is what black people were denied. So again, I can just go with the millennial versus white boomer argument, the white millennial versus white boomer, and you can see, the difference in wealth accumulation. And all that does is, I said it before that, the housing prices cannot just go up into infinity, especially with wages not keeping up with the prices of housing, not keeping up with the inflation. There's people I know that right now they live in $1 million homes And I look at them and I'm like, yeah, you're stable, you make a lot of money. I'm like, how is your child going to afford a house? So by the time they're grown in another, like, freaking, 16 years, whatever, that house is going to be $1 million. How are they going to afford that? And you should see the blank look on their face. These are white people. I'm like, it cannot go up in infinity. It doesn't it doesn't work that way. All right. So I don't know why the hell I'm choking, but anyway, what's the other thing about the I talked about the housing. There was something else I was going to say about what he was talking about, the Cornel West, Jimmy. Hold on a second, it'll come to me. Oh, marriage. Um, like I said, conservatives, they talk about, families and all that. They want to make everything behavioral. But as soon as you get into paying men unionized wages, decent wages to make young men viable. Like, this is the whole issue that I have with feminism, because feminism seems to go against female, human nature. And what I'm going to say is going to be very controversial, and obviously the feminists and even modern women, or they don't even have to be hardcore feminists, but just modern women in general, they're going to push back on me saying this. But it's like, what is the purpose of paying women, right? If I were to stand up and say women should be pregnant and barefoot and be at home raising the kids, right? I get all type of objections, right? Women are successful and they have careers and their business and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. But every time women get paid money, they either A, I don't need a man, or B, I only want to date a man that's above me, right? And feminists often push the idea of, well, men need to step their game up. Men need to man up. That is not a solution. That is impossible, because the whole concept of feminism was to what? Equalize women to men. So if the man's making $75,000 a year, the woman must be making $75,000 a year. But here's the whole problem. The woman that's now making $75,000 a year only wants to date the dude that's making $125,000 a year. Men are willing to date down. Women are not. So you end up with this situation where empowered women only facilitates polygamy amongst men, where you get the top 20% of dudes that they have the pick of the litter and they just run through a bunch of bitches and they'll probably pluck one and finally marry her. But, they've already ran through all the other women. And then, as we've seen, that has created this whole animosity that young men have towards women, where they don't want all these women that were used, disrespected, got high body counts, and turn them into wives, while there's some dude out there that has a video of her, defiling her and blowing loads all over her face. Okay? They don't want that type of stuff to pop up. We already got, 13-year-olds that are self-deleting because, mommy's got an OnlyFans page. It's another issue, where we have all the ways in which women can make money unattached to a man and, go out there and, sex sells. So men are just a part of this as much as, the women are. Right? Because for every woman that is selling her body or selling images of her body, there's a John. There's somebody willing to purchase and consume. Right? And then even when you get into the guys that purchase and consume, if you're a guy that's not in that top 20%, right? And you're just a part of the 80%, the lower 80%, right? And the only way that you can have access to women and affection and psychologically, for your own personal, like, satisfaction or sense of self is through OnlyFans and pornography and all that other stuff, right? So, like, it just ends up being this vicious cycle that's not beneficial and healthy to society. And the problem is that, people will still procreate, but none of the children are going to be growing up in these nuclear family intact homes. I don't care how much white Jesus you sprinkle on it. The women, they're not attracted to the men because the men are not prosperous enough, and the women only want to get, fuck with the top 20%, even if they have the, the mommy cravings. Then at like 32, they're like, oh, I want a baby, but then they can't get the guy that they want, so they settle for a guy that's not on their level. They have a baby by him, then run around, divorce him, or not even get married to that guy, run around claiming that, he's a dusty, right? And then she raises the kid by herself. Then she's a single mom. She feels whole because, I'm a mother now, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, who's losing in that situation? The child is, because they don't have a balance between the masculine and the feminine, in the household. And so you end up with angry boys, just like that video clip that I had on my, in my that wasn't actually, no, it was in the video. It was too long to be in the video shorts. But the 15-year-old that tore up his mother's apartment because she took his cell phone away. You know what I mean? They don't have effective emotional management. They don't have any of these things, right? And so, you end up seeing, boys with significant antisocial behavior. Then they become a part of the prison industrial complex, right? So now you got to build more prisons, right? Which is something that the oligarchy would like, because a lot of their stocks and bonds are in prisons, right? Or in the companies that supply the prisons with the razor wire and the cameras and, the steel and everything else that goes into the prison, the security guard, companies and everything else, all the cafeteria, you name it. The stools that go in the prison, the phones that go into the prison, like politicians and, the oligarch cats, they're making all type of money off of locking men up. And then they can extract labor from them anyway by putting them to work to print out license plates or IKEA furniture or whatever the hell else they're doing. Right? Pennies on the dollars, contracted them out. Again, convict leasing. That's what it is. Get the prisoners to do it. Hell, y'all gonna have to work this off. We're not gonna feed you and clothe you and warehouse you for nothing. Nah, then the state contracts them out, and I mean, you can go and Google, all of that, or YouTube, how all that works. It's modern day slavery. So you just end up with this broken family situation, and so basically what you have is, like, even with the transgender stuff, look, I like listening to the two white guys talk. It hit me that it's like, okay, and this is my dilemma, because they are 100% right when they said, it's like, yeah, but you don't care about minority issues. You want to use them for the vote, but you don't care about their issues, right? And real talk, like, I don't really care about LGBTQ issues. I don't. And not only that, it flies in the face of the things that I want to see. It flies in the face of reestablishing patriarchy in the black community, right? Since, we were the canaries in the coal mine, and the way that black men have been, economically undermined and disenfranchised has contributed to, again, all the problems that you see in the black community, smash and grabs, the violence in the community, gangs, the high rates of homicide, all of that. You don't have enough men that are in the homes, who are gainfully employed. Okay? That's why, even though I can sit there and be like, oh, it's only 1% of the community, you know what I mean? It's significant enough to where we have problems in most black communities all across America. Okay? So you got to talk about men being gainfully employed. You got to talk about the reinstatement of patriarchy, which is something the black feminists don't want to hear. Okay? Transgender anything, or LGBT, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with, creating these, nuclear families. And yes, I know that you will have gay people who will be born to straight parents. Happens all the time. And no, I'm not saying that they should be, dealt with or that they should be condemned and all that other stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, look, I don't want my kid being gay. I want my kid to I want my daughter to come out straight and my son to come out straight, and then they get married and have children. The normal way. I'm not making LGBTism normal. It's not normal. It's not conducive to life. If everybody on the planet were gay, then that would be the end of the human species. That's not hate speech. That's a fact. It's reality. So a lot of people want us to give into their body dysmorphia. They want us to give into their delusion. I'm not giving into that. I'm not going to be bullied into that shit. You know what I mean? But I'm saying if gay LGBTQ people have issues that they want to address or want things to be addressed, yes, we can have that discussion. But what's I going to say? I none of that to me is conducive to like where I'm trying to go with black men and black women and black families and black unification, of those families, and having intact, thriving, communities and developing children, with sound mind and positive, personal identities, not just as an individual, but when it comes to being black, and not thinking of black with the self-hate lens and the inferiority complex due to the fact that they disproportionately live in squalor relative to other groups. But that's my issue with like Cornel West, talking about white supremacy and black. And I understand, if you're running for president, you can't be, the for black people only president. You can't. So maybe I need to stand down on a lot of the transgender LGBT stuff. But it's like this. There was a lot of times this, I shouldn't say a lot of times this happens, but this has happened on more than one occasion where, because I'm a big guy, I'm a big muscular guy, and I try to tell you all this time, both men and women respect somebody that has a strong masculine presence, a man that has a strong masculine presence. I walk in the room, people, they look at you, even when I get pulled over by cops. You know what I mean? Like they're like, their whole doing drugs and everything, that goes out the door. They're like, this dude, look at this dude. He looks like he works out every day. You know what I mean? If he's doing any drugs, it's probably steroids, right? That's what they're thinking. You know what I mean? There's just a respect. It's like when you see a freaking, I remember I was watching some video about the masculinity and stuff like that, and it's like, the predator eyes and hunter eyes versus like prey eyes, and the way of a person, that has strong confidence, the way that they move, like lions move slowly, where like a gazelle is all skittish, a rabbit's all skittish, because they're looking out for predators. You know what I mean? Adrenaline's pumping all the time. But a lion, who the fuck is a lion looking out for? Nobody. You know what I mean? So they tend to move slowly. They tend to, just the way that they carry themselves. It's like a predator, and people, they recognize that, they respect that. But anyway, that's like how I carry myself, right? There's virtually, come on, fucking, well over 6 foot, 300 pounds. I look like a guy. I'm bigger than most Eagles players. The only person that's bigger than me is I'm bigger than The Rock. I'm bigger than, who else was I bigger than? I think I was bigger than The Rock, bigger than Goldberg, bigger than, only person I'm not bigger than is like Hulk Hogan. I went through like a whole list of celebrities. Hulk Hogan, I'm not bigger than The Undertaker. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, when you have that sort of physique, people kind of give you this automatic respect. And a couple of times, and one time in particular, I was getting food, and I was just, I don't know, I walked in on drama. Apparently the woman that was in front of me or came, like, she kind of cut the line because she had already gotten her food, but her food was messed up. Okay? And because I guess she told him that she didn't want something on it. Like, it's like Taco Bell. Like, I hate when they put sour cream on my tacos. Give me the taco supreme without the sour cream. Can't stand the sour cream. Aside from the fact that the sour cream's like a filler, so they give you like all this filler cream, but they don't want to give you any meat. They don't want to give you any lettuce or tomatoes, right? So it's a filler. It's really a scam. A lot of people don't pick up on that. But anyway, I say no sour cream. Anyway, her order was messed up, and the guy, he was basically blowing her off, right? And I could tell just by the way that she looked, she didn't have a whole bunch of money, and she wasn't big. This is a black woman. And the way that the guy was talking to her was like, you're nobody. Like, I don't care what's going on with your menu. But when I stepped up, and I get this a lot when I go and I get food and I order it from, the guys behind the counter. A lot of times they're like, hey man, you big, man, how I get big like you, man? Hey man, they always want to spark up a conversation about working out. Hey man, you play ball, man. It's always the same thing. He wanted to engage me in a conversation and kind of ignore her at the same time. And he was like, lady, I'm done with you. What can I get for you? And I was like, no. I was like, take care of her first. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna deflect away from the responsibility of your job, which is to take care of the customers, and then just skip over her and go right to me. And that's the type of courtesy that I expect from the LGBT community. Because what the left has done is they use the LGBT community because again, it's not a racial issue because anybody can be gay. They use the LGBT community to try to deflect away from black people's demands, and everything becomes a gay issue, and there's no black agenda. And again, I look at African American women with a side eye because they allowed this bullshit to happen. They were used to allow this shit to happen. So we can't talk about a black agenda. We got to talk about a gay agenda. And you saw the same crap with, Claudia Jordan and Cocktails with Queens with Ice Cube up there talking about the contract with Black America. You know what I mean? When the women, and what about black women? And where's black women in it? That type of crap. Like, what do you mean? Like you can write whatever you want to write in there. We can sit down and have that discussion. I thought that was included when I said black people. What the hell, right? So, which goes to show you how much, the feminism has disrupted any sort of black agenda. Okay, it's not black men were not the ones that walked away. It was black women, because black women joined the feminist agenda. But anyway, I expect that type of courtesy from the LGBT community. Oh, no. You can address our issues as soon as you take care of them, because they were in line before we got in line. That's what the LGBT community needs to be saying, but they don't. They turn around and, you got black men trying to, rectify, what was done to us. And then, we're being told, oh, you're toxic. Oh, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's like you're experiencing what the white guys are experiencing. You're getting hit from both sides. You're getting hit from white supremacy. You're getting hit from your own women. You're getting hit from the LGBT community, because apparently the black men are the most, we're the most toxic now, right? Everything is about, us. So it keeps everybody's kind of got like an enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's got like somebody trying to attack them, and everybody's pitted against, each other in that regard. And real conversations can't be had, right? And mind you, I already know that a lot of people don't want to have, those type of conversations, because, like, example, the conversation of reparations for, slavery and Jim Crow, you are talking about an allocation of resources from the dominant white society transferred over to black people. That's what you're talking about. No, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I'm saying it doesn't have to just be monetarily. It could be other things, like what you see with the Seminoles down there in Florida. The Seminole Native Americans, they go to universities, they go to college for free. But it's not just about the education. It's also about, black people holding something and actually controlling something. Because the primary issue for African Americans, it used to be, oh, go get an education and then you'll be able to get a job. And see, the problem is black people ain't educated. No, it's not the problem. The problem is that white people control the overwhelming majority of the opportunities. You go to college, you put yourself in, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and then you graduate college, and then what? Then you got to beg a white person for a job, and they don't want to hire you. They want to keep things in-house. Oh, not college. Yeah, what college did you go to? What fraternity are you in? Are you in the Piker fraternity? Are you in the Kappa Alpha fraternity? You know what I'm saying? Like all those sort of connections, right? You gotta be a part of that. You see, and black people, black men, they're excluded, from a lot of that. Or you end up with the tokenism. Oh, we gotta hire a black person so that we don't appear racist. Okay, bring in a black person. Right? So you get the one-off black people that are then later used, to tell all the other black people, oh, see, why can't you be like this one black person that we let through the door and had no intention of letting anybody else through the door? But we got this one, that's supposed to go up there and be the symbol of tokenism that you should aspire to, even though we're going to do everything in our power to keep the rest of you all niggas out. You see, so these are the type of games that are played. But I'm saying, I don't know how you fix the families when, we don't want to have a serious conversation about prioritizing boys over girls. Yes, over girls, because it does not, the equality situation does not work. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any hindrance or blockade. I don't even know how this problem could be specifically addressed. But the issue is, the truth be told, the issue is not even the equality component. That actually could be done, but the issue is female nature. That's the problem. Because women don't want to date down. They only want to date up. Men already date down. And then women will argue, oh, well, men should try to date up then. How can a man date up if women are not willing to date down? You're not making sense. The women don't want to date down. If the women don't find the men attractive, then again, you end up with this large number of single mothers, because they can't get the guys that they really want. Then they go out there and have a baby by a guy that's less desirable. Then that relationship breaks apart. It fizzles. And then you end up with a whole bunch of, a whole nation of single moms. And again, then you get, if these women are raising boys, then you end up with the boys that end up, because the moms can't check them after about 12 years old, because the boy's physically stronger and more capable than she is, and because he hasn't been getting the guidance of a strong masculine presence in the home. Now he's out there fucking shit up. Now he's out there involved in all type of bullshit, not being a productive, constructive member of the overall society or even his local community. So where women want to sit there and fist in the air with the feminism and, oh yeah, and women, and you go girl and all this other stuff, when we get into the fact that many of them are going to procreate and they're going to at least have one child, then we got to look at, what's the next generation going to look like? Because all those people grew up without a father. And it just creates more problems, even when it comes to, again, the U.S. military and the military industrial complex. Yeah, good luck trying to get some recruits for your fucking wars. Good luck with that shit. Well, I mean, I saw a video the other day of some zillennial white guy, and he was like, why we're not joining the military? He's like, what the fuck am I joining the military for? All this gay shit? What am I joining the military for? To fight for what? To fight, to be told that I'm a toxic white male, and that if I'm transphobic if I don't want to sleep with a man. Like, what am I fighting for? Then on top of that, can't afford the proper foundation to start a family. Can't afford to date. Can't afford to get the women. Right? Because the women, you're not making, 6 figures. I can't date you. We can't start a family. Right? Even though the minute that she gets with that guy, she's going to be like, why am I not making 6 figures? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a vicious cycle. So at that, they have no dog in the fight. They don't care if the society collapses. And like I said, guaranteed, they're going to try to come up with some laws. The white women, oh, they're going to try to come up with some laws. They're going to be like, no, we don't want these white men out here. They trying to bring back bitches from Ukraine. Fuck that shit. You know what I mean? They're going to be up there trying to create new immigration laws that are targeted at mail order brides. And they're going to start, trying to find some like Andrew Tate type of situation and use that to shut it down. They'll be like, yes, and these Western disgusting American males, they're going out there and they're getting with Ukrainian women to sexually exploit them, and there's Ukrainian American, sex rings, and there's all type of sex trafficking from the Ukraine and Thailand and Cambodia and all these places that these white men are going. We must shut that down because we must save the girls. And it's not even about saving the girls, it's about the fact you got a bunch of old, haggard, jealous, bitter-ass white bitches that don't want these white men going out there and being fucking happy and going out there and getting with somebody else. You know what I mean? I mean, quiet as is kept. It's like, it's fucking with even the most basic form of white supremacy that you see out here, which is white supremacy is predicated on the idea of them going off and getting with what? Other white people, right? White men getting with white women. But passport bros, they don't like Western women. They don't seem to care. I was listening to Undead Chronic the other day. Undead Chronic was like, no, I can't go to Europe because those bitches are just as corrupt too. It's a Western problem. It's all about the West. I would love to have white children, but I can't because Western women are corrupt. So he can't go to Europe and he can't be in America. So that leaves what? Asia. His racist ass ain't gonna go to Africa. So all these white guys are gonna be out there fucking with Asian women, which the byproduct of that won't be white people. They will be, freaking, Keanu Reeves, which a lot of people don't know. He's half Filipino. You know what I'm saying? But like, it'll be these Eurasian looking people. That's going to be the new wave. And we already know, like, white men and Asian women, they already have a high ass, unification rate, right? I'd argue the highest, because the Hispanics, they always get that whenever they come to, no, the highest unification is between Latinos and white people. It's like, no, because first off, Latino and white people are not like that's white on white. Like, if a white American man gets with a chick from Argentina, that's white. You know what I mean? And most of these Latin American countries, okay, a drop of mestizo or some shit like that. Nah, but many of those unifications are just white people getting with white people. They just speak different languages. That's still white on white. You know what I mean? That's like me getting with a chick from Nigeria and be like, well, technically it's an interracial relationship because I'm African American and she's Nigerian. And clearly somewhere in there, as an African-American descendant of slaves, I have some Caucasian running through my blood. So technically it's an interracial relationship. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. You fucking getting so technical, it's dumb. You know what I'm saying? So they miss me with the whites and Latinos bullshit. It's white on white majority of the time. Like, I'm just saying, nobody wants to say, hey, men should be paid more than women. Nobody wants to actually say that, but I'm like, I don't know how you get past women's hard wiring, because they all want to date up. They all want to date men making more money than them, no matter how much money they make. Well, I make $200,000 a year. Okay, who are you going to date? I'm only going to date man making $300,000 a year. Do you know how small percentage of the population that is? I don't care. I'm at this level. And right? And I'm saying she has every right to feel that way. But I'm saying, one woman saying that and Ebony K. Williams saying that, that's one thing. But to have the vast majority of women in America saying that, see, now you got a problem on your hands. You done let the shit get out of whack. And you've accelerated the process of gender equality, like past the natural adjustment to that. And I don't even know if there is a natural adjustment to that. Men like feminine women, women like masculine men. It's only within the last 50 years that we've been doing this social experiment of gender equality and all that other stuff. And a lot of women haven't even given up, what they claim that they want, when it comes to, they want, you'll get women, I'm a career woman, first baby pops out, and now all of a sudden she wants to be a stay-at-home mom and raise the kids and be taken care of. It's like, wait, what happened to all that strong, independent woman stuff? Well, I've now discovered the beauty of being a mother. I have seen that shit happen. And then the dude that went in there on some 50-50 relationship gets all the responsibilities dumped on him that he couldn't afford by himself because he wasn't that guy. It's nuts. But I'm just saying, like, the big problems with the politics, I'll let the transgendered and the LGBT shit, I'll let that slide, because I'm like, yeah, it is kind of hypocritical to sit there and be like, look at the white people using us to try to get us to vote, but then, they don't want to address any of our issues. And I don't want to say that I'm doing the same thing to the LGBT community, but I'm saying, I'm like, what is the solution in the black community? We need, economic opportunities, gainful employment, proper, quality housing, and strong nuclear families. I don't know where gay couples that don't procreate life fit into that equation. I know that they're going to be a part of the community, but they're like 1-2% of the population. Why are they being prioritized? You know what I mean? Like, it's like this dumbest thing in the world to me. When you're trying to be an architect of society and you're like, okay, we need this many stable homes so that we can have this much GDP and so that we can have, this many, productive individuals of sound mind for the next generation. Right? I'm like, why are you talking about the people that don't even fucking procreate? That doesn't even make sense. It's the dumbest shit in the world. So I don't know what these folks are doing. At every turn, it's like it's like they're doing whatever is politically expedient. And at the end of the day, it's because there's no long-term plan. Everything just collapses. And that's what you're seeing. It's collapsing. The dating market thing, that right there, that is number one priority. Which is directly tied into the job market. That the jobs and the date, that is number one priority. Otherwise, America's going to look like Japan very fast and very soon, where you got this old ass population and you got very few children, and it goes into this whole inverted population triangle, and which is going to be a decline on the economy, or of the economy, because you have young people are the ones that consume. Young people are the ones that go out and, when they're working and they buy new cars and they buy houses and they got to fill that house with stuff, and they buy, all type of, everything, just everything, clothes for the kids, video games, cell phones, all that. Those are your consumers. Old people are like, I think I'm just going to drive this car until the wheels fall off. They don't buy shit. They just hoard on the wealth because they're in retirement or heading to, they're not in their productive years. So they're not as frivolous with their money like younger people are or middle-aged people are. So in the end, it just hurts everything. And I'm sitting there, and what pisses me off, like, when we talk about white supremacy, you got all these fucking white guys that went to Harvard and Yale and Ivy School this and Ivy League school that, and these are the people in positions of power making all the decisions, got all the connections, and this is the shit that they come up with. This is the best shit they come up with. White supremacy, my ass. These motherfuckers are literally fucking up the world and cutting off their nose to spite their face. I mean, eventually it'll just get to a point. I mean, I know they're thinking, oh, we'll just wait till the next crash and buy everything up. But I'm like, I'm like, there's not going to be anything left. There's not going to be anything left. Like, it's just nuts. And it's about to look like Mad Max and the Road Warrior out in this bitch. You know, and you got all these people, you got people being radicalized. You got freaking Nazis running around Florida, right? You know, you got all this stuff going on. You know, you get mass shootings and whatnot. And you know, people are acting like shit ain't getting worse. I'm like, it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. You know, and it probably is going to be another, you know, 10 to 15 years until millennials, you know, until you know, all the boomers die out and the millennials are the ones that are at the helm. And I don't know where the millennials are going to be at that point, because I think there's going to be so much frustration due to the delay of establishing their lives. There's going to be frustration largely due to that. And so everybody's going to be on some gimme, you know, trying to live out the last, you know, 25 years of their life. You know, I don't know what that shit's going to look like. You know, the Zillennials, I mean, you know, they're the group that'll probably bring us closer to freaking Mad Max and the Road Warrior. You know, because for them, they've never really seen stability in America like that. You know, it was 9/11, then it was fucking, you know, the financial crisis, then it was COVID, right? Now it's, you know, housing prices are stupid. Then came, you know, social media, where their whole sense of making money is completely warped. Why am I going to go to college and go and get a degree and then be, you know, $50,000 or more in debt and then only be paid $40,000 and not be able to afford shit? Nah, let me go on YouTube or TikTok or social media and do a whole bunch of dumb, unproductive shit. You know what I mean? Or sell, you know, all these freaking items online, right? Which means like the shutting down of malls and the shutting down of brick and mortar stores, and, you know, buy my shit online. Like, everything's online now, right? So there's no main streets anymore. There's no, like, the places where people actually socialize one-on-one. Like, there's so much fucking shit going on, you know, that it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. Like, honestly, I feel bad for a lot of the millennials, because at least as millennials, like, we got to see the shit. Like, I seen a couple videos where people were like, you know, they were looking at the shit. They were like, man, the fucking 90s. You know what I mean? Like, they were like videos of like there was like a video of a guy doing, like, he's like on rollerblades with some Jenko jeans and a Walkman, and he's like, and it's just like, yo, these were the good old days. Like, the whole comment section is like, yo, these are the good old days. Everything was so much simpler. It was so much simpler. You know, you didn't have, you know, like, access to just everything. You didn't have, you know, the perception that you have 1,000,001 options. I can do better. 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 Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything was local. The bad bitches that you knew were local. You know what I mean? The handsome guys that you knew were local. Now it's like, oh, this bitch is getting flew down, and freaking, you know, guys are sitting there like just obsessed with all, you know, the perfection of, you know, these women that have gotten BBLs and everything else, you know, online, and all these fitness gurus. And so everybody is now expecting people to have perfect bodies and perfect shapes and perfect everything, because that's what you see on social media. And then you have all the filters and everything else like that. Like, ain't no bitch's skin that goddamn clear. You know what I mean? Like, you know, got the Misty filter and shit like that. Oh, she's so beautiful. And the damn filter's like contouring her nose and her cheeks and her face and fucking putting makeup on her eyes and shit that she doesn't even have. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've seen a couple women that are like, these filters are scary. They're like, I don't look like this. This is not what I look like. Here, let me show you. Turn the filter off and you're like, ah! You know what I mean? Like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. You know, and you know, it's everything is like a tree stump. You know, like, again, that planting that tree, that seed, and then the tree grows, and then you chop the tree down. The stump is still there. The roots are still there. All that is still, like, you still got this big ass lump in your lawn. That's not going away anytime soon. The damage has already been done. Doesn't matter that you freaking cut the tree down. The roots are still there, still under the ground, still there, right? And you're cutting the grass and you trip over the root. Like, yeah, the shit's gonna be there unless you completely uproot the whole damn tree, which you know how hard that shit is to do. It's fucked up. But it just looking at it, I honestly, I hope that, I can't speak for other groups and what other people are going to do, but I really hope that this election cycle, which is what I told black men to do the last election cycle, I really hope that the collective of black men really disrupt this election, really disrupt, especially what's going on with the Democrats, because that's supposed to be, our party, based on our viewpoint, because we disproportionately vote for them. And I'm saying we should be the primary ones holding them accountable. And we as black men have failed to do that. Too many of us operate in matriarchy. Too many of us operate in black woman think or black woman shaming tactics. Okay, this shit has gotten completely out of whack. Now, whatever the other groups want to do, that's on them. I'm not here to have that conversation about how they're going to handle situations and prioritize their needs. Yes, there's probably a lot of common ground, when it comes to this shit. Black men are beginning to lean, conservative. But that does not mean that the conservatives have anything for black people. They don't. They don't have shit for us. Nothing. They ain't offering a damn thing. Literally, they're not. Okay? They're doing what the left does. What does the left do? The left speaks to black people's, plight, but they're not going to do anything. They're like, oh, we acknowledge, let's have what do they usually do? Let's have some sort of, committee to discuss reparations, but we ain't going to do shit. But we'll discuss it. We'll acknowledge it. But that's about as far as it goes, right? And then they move the fuck on. And the Republicans, they're doing the same thing. They're looking at like, whoa, there's been a tide shift. These men, the red pill, all that other stuff. See, at first they tried to push back against it. With Jordan Peterson and the Daily Wire, and y'all, they need to man up and blah 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 blah, and you're acting weak. And I told y'all, they tried to do what white folks have always done to young black men. Just shame them, and you're not trying hard enough, personal responsibility. Da 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 da. They got major blowback on that. Especially from young white men. The older white men, they're still trying to push that. The Dave Ramseys and the fucking, a handful of these older, like, Gen X, white men that are, like, in their 50s and up, they're still trying to carry that torch. Even Mike Rao, they still try to carry, the torch of, personal responsibility and everything, that old conservative talking point. But at the end of the day, like, they're going to have to address, this issue. But, again, they'll give it lip service. They'll be like, yes, young white men, we understand how you feel and the dating market and why you're on Passport Bros, and we get it, we understand. But they ain't about to, they're not about to actually put policy in place and allocate resources, to young men just across the board. Obviously they would prefer to prioritize young white men, but I mean, just, when it comes to men, period, whether it's, current opportunities for young men and, current programs for young male children, to prioritize them and stop with all this you go girl, type of bullshit, which doesn't benefit the fucking country. Because like I said, at the end of the day, I don't care how successful a woman is, she's only going to want to date up. And if you don't keep the population of men ahead of the women by prioritizing the men, the ones that build the infrastructure, maintain and defend the physical infrastructure, right? And fight all your wars. If you don't keep them ahead, then, they cease to care. They don't have a dog in the fight. The fucking country, fucking collapses. You get a rise of single mothers. You have more women taking money out of the system than you have men putting money into the system. And then you end up with, just one big fat, like basically all of America will be looking like the black community, including the white community. All of America will be looking like Gary, Indiana. Keep fucking around America, American government, and you about to find out. Keep fucking around. And again, all these fucking, you got fucking Mitch McConnell up there, he's having fucking what looks to be fucking, only kids have absence seizures, but he's freaking obviously had a freaking TIA. You know what I'm saying? A freaking ischemic attack, a mini stroke. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he's got that. You got fucking Joe Biden up there. What is he, 88 years old? He's sleeping and zoning out, falling, turning to shake people's hands, that aren't even there, or shaking the wrong person's hands. They, like, dragging him around like he's a fucking baby. Come here, Joe. Come here, Joe. No, over here, Joe. Come this way. The whole shit is fucked. All these fucking boomers and silent generation motherfuckers that don't even need to be up there. Why do we have the geriatric ward running the fucking insane asylum? Like why is this happening? And again, the fucking the boomers, they're up there. They're like, oh no, Joe knows what he's talking about. Like, I'm like, Joe don't know his left hand from his right hand. Joe can't tell a story without fumbling, through the damn story and forget halfway through what the fuck he's talking about. I'll give Trump at least that much, that he's not, that fucking far gone, But, he just goes off the cuff and shit like that. But I'm just saying, he's definitely not as senile as freaking Joe Biden is. But why do we have all these people? That like the presidents should be like 45 years old and shit. That's who should be running the country. Not fucking, people that are 1 foot in the grave. Like as though, where are you leading us? To the cemetery? Like, where the fuck are you leading us? It's like, and I know, like this video, I wish that we could see eye to eye on a lot of these issues, man. But, man, motherfuckers are too goddamn emotional. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to, like, example, like, white guys will be like, yeah, man, I totally feel you, dude. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's right. We need to get together and not separate. I'm like, hey, man, calm down. Because I'm still talking that reparations for slavery talk. You know what I'm saying? We got seriously fucked. And again, they ain't trying to have that conversation because, and it really doesn't matter. They'll say, oh, we can't have that conversation because, our belts we're tightening our belts right now. Yeah. And again, when black people, when this country was doing well, that's what they were telling, Martin Luther King. Always kicking the can down the road. It's never the right time. All that shit. Black people, we ain't hearing that noise. We are not hearing that noise. So again, certain things, there's areas of overlap. Focusing on young men and young boys, economic opportunities, even when it comes to like some of this foreign policy that's just like unnecessary, unions, housing, education, healthcare, all these sorts of things. Yeah, those are areas that we can agree on, which is what the two white guys were saying about, Jimmy Dore. He only wants to talk about the things that would benefit basically white people in general, but when it comes to other stuff that the other groups want to focus on, nah, we don't want to talk about that. We're just going to give that lip service. but the things that, you know, obviously would benefit everybody, you know, rising tides raise all boats type of shit. Yeah, they're all for that. You know what I mean? But they can't get anything. It's like you can't get anything done. And you got all the obstruction type of the policies, you know, now, like where it's like, you know, oh, everything's along party lines, right? If the Democrats are trying to get something through, the Republicans are like, no. And if the Republicans are trying to get something through, the Democrats are like, no. And then, you know, again, the electorate is never one, doesn't have enough seats or doesn't have a super majority to override the other. You know, so nothing gets done. And I don't care who's in office. I don't care what political party's in office. It just seems like nothing gets done because the other side is going to oppose, you know, because that's what they do. You know, and then it's like, I even had this conversation with the gun community, you know, white gun community, and they agree with me on that subject. I'm like, you ever notice, like, whenever a Democrat's in office, that's when they want to push all these bills that'll never pass. They're like, the Hearing Protection Act. Yes, we're going to take silencers off of the NFA list. You know, SBR should not be on, you know, the NFA list. You know, we're going to get rid of SBR as being on the list. Joe Biden ain't going to sign that. Oh, now you want to present that shit. Why didn't you present that shit when Trump was in office? Why don't you present that shit when he was up there? National reciprocity. Why don't you put that shit on the floor and push that shit as hard as you could when Trump was in office and get national reciprocity signed? You know what I mean? And again, so it's like all of a sudden the Republicans, they get all this courage when it comes to the Second Amendment when they know that they can't pass a law. They'll be like, I was on the floor and I was fighting for you, right? But like they only go on the floor when it can't be passed. They never go, and whenever they got a majority, because I think they had a majority like when Trump first got in office and shit. Nope, ain't passing shit. Dragging their feet. Oh, I don't think now's the time. What do you mean now's the time? You got the House and you got the Senate. The fuck? What do you mean it's not the time? You know what I mean? And then you know, the freaking midterm elections come, they lose a bunch of seats or some shit like that, and then they go, oh, well, I think we should push now. Now's the time to put. No, now's not the time to push. The time to push was 2 years ago. The fuck? You know what I mean? So it's the same type of crap, man. Like, it's just, I'm telling you, like, and again, you know, it seems like the I don't know, the millennials seem to be the only like informed population with social media when it comes to, you know, this type of stuff. At least we question the shit, we analyze it, we have debates and discussions about it. But, you know, like the boomers, man, all they do is watch Fox News and MSNBC. And that's where they get 99% of their information, and you can't tell them shit. They got all the answers. You know what I mean? They don't even sit there and watch the other side. You know, to even know, like, I'm like, what are you opposing? Do you even know what you're opposing? What are they on? And you know, and some of the shit is like, yeah, I actually, you know, I kind of agree with that. Right? It's just like, it's like COVID. I didn't agree with shutting everything down, like the liberals shut everything down in the Northeast, you know, and made, you know, shut all the businesses down and everything. I didn't agree with that. But by the same token, my attitude was wear a mask or get fucking vaccinated. One of the two. If you don't want shit to be shut down, we're trying to stop the spread of COVID, get vaccinated or wear a fucking mask. It's just that simple. But nah, you had to have motherfuckers out here, I'm not shutting shit down, and it's my right to cough and sneeze and breathe on whoever I want to cough and sneeze and breathe on. You know, and you just sit there like, oh my God, man. Notice how, if you go back and you look at the freaking, you know, the Spanish flu, 1918, all of those peoples have masks. Just type in 1918, the streets of New York or the streets of whatever, London or some shit like, just type it in. Everybody got a mask. Everybody masked up. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a political thing. You know, but now people are just, they want to be opposite just to be opposite. Especially with a lot of Gen Xers and boomers. You know, out there mad, you know, they're talking about just superfluous shit. You know, like the LGBT community and their, you know, their storybook time. I don't know what they're doing. I'm like, why are y'all playing in people's faces like that? You know what I mean? You know it's bad when you make the Nazis look like they're making some sense, right? You know it's bad when you make them look like, you know, that they got a point. I'm like, fuck is y'all doing? Leave the kids out of it. Leave the kids alone. You know, they got that organization called Gays Against Groomers. I don't know if y'all heard of it, but got Gays Against Groomers. You know, they don't play with that shit. But I'm just saying, all this, if you notice, all the bullshit issues are all the stuff that triggers people. You know what I mean? Like, the Second Amendment triggers people, even though I don't think it's a bullshit issue, but Second Amendment triggers them. I mean, Bruin's already been done. So all this shit just has to do is work its way through the courts. But Bruin that's already been done. Second Amendment ain't really that much of an issue, quite as it's kept. Okay, so you got Second Amendment trigger issue, fucking LGBT trigger issue, abortion trigger issue, race reparations trigger issue, immigration trigger issue, women's, no, I already said that, women's abortion, women's rights and shit like that, trigger issue. And what else is a trigger issue? I don't know what else is a trigger issue. But you know, friggin' pedophiles, trigger issue, right? You know, talking about that stuff like that. Right? And I'm like, can we talk about people getting jobs and being gainfully employed and not having to pay 43% of their income to their fucking rent or their mortgage? How about that? How about that? Right? On some catch me outside type shit. How about that? How about we talk about that? As opposed to all these superfluous fucking trigger issues that are supposed to, the whole purpose of the trigger issues is so that you become a one issue voter and that you don't pay attention to the nuances and vote in any sort of intelligent way. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't, you just, so they can cater to that one issue, right? You don't have to address anything else. You know, I'm a politician and I'm from Kentucky and I believe in the Second Amendment and I'm not going to talk about any other issues. Don't be coming over here talking about jobs and coal mines, and don't be telling me. I'm here because I support the Second Amendment and I'm against the fascism of Joe Biden and taking away our proper gun rights. Make sure that you come out for me and vote for me in November, right? And that's what it is. So, you know, I got guns. I don't want my guns to be taken by Joe Biden, so I'm just gonna go out there and vote for this politician because of the Second Amendment, right? And then that allows that politician to get away with not addressing what's going on with the coal mines, right? Or what's going on with the jobs in the area, right? Or what's going on with housing and all that other shit. See, that's the hard stuff. The hardest shit in the world to do is to create economic opportunities for young men. But the government has already done that with, you know, we got a failing infrastructure. I mean, they could come up with an infrastructure bill. You know what I mean? But arguably that's borrowing more money, more inflation, you know, all that stuff. It might stimulate the economy in a way, right? But, you know, I'm just saying the U.S. needs, you know, a better infrastructure. You know, again, all this shit, the auto industry and the way that they were in cahoots and big oil, and we're going to tear up the trolley cars, and we're going to, make sure that we don't have, you know, high-speed railways in this country, because we don't want high-speed railways. We want everybody to buy a car, which facilitates the auto industry and gas prices and buying gas and all this other shit. Meanwhile, you know, Europe has, you know, high-speed railways. China has high-speed railways. Japan has high-speed railways. In America, you know, it's like, okay, you got to either drive or, you know, fly across the country in an airline, right? But no high-speed railways, no levitating trains, you know, no 200-mile-an-hour bullet train, none of that shit. Nothing that makes sense. Just imagine if you could be like, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to go to Texas About a 4-hour train ride or something like that. If I can get on the train, you'd be there in 4 hours. Going there at, I don't know how. Let me see this shit. How long? Might take longer than that. How long? Wait, how fast does a bullet train go? Bullet train goes 186 miles an hour. So how long would it take to get from New York to Texas? Give me a city. New York to Houston at 186 miles an hour. How long would that take? Nah, it's not giving me that. I gotta ask. A road trip? No, that's not a road trip. Come on. Let's go to ChatGPT. Where's it at? Hold on. Because I'm about to wrap this video up, but I want to see what this shit is right quick. Okay. Come on. How long would it take to travel from New York to Houston, Texas on a train if the train was, how was it? Well, if the train went a direct route at 200 miles an hour. No, 186 miles an hour. Let's get more specific. Let's see. See if the math is right on this shit. Blah, 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 blah. About approximately 1,400 to 1,500 miles, depending on the specific route, to estimate the time. Time equals distance times speed. Yep, converting 186 miles an hour, 6 minutes, 3.1 miles per minute, and then 1,400 miles. So 1,400 divided by 3.1 miles per minute equals 451 minutes. 451 minutes, which means, so it would take approximately 7 hours and 31 minutes to travel from New York to Houston at a constant speed of 186 miles an hour. Okay, so you'd be there, you leave it, what would that be? Leave it like fucking 9, get there by like, 4, right? That's not bad, right? That's not bad, right? I mean, you'd be there in the same day. I'm just saying, I'm just coming up with some shit. But, this country is not effective right now. And it's not effective because, I blame it a lot on the boomers and the Gen Xers because they don't have as much information as, the millennials, in terms of information being at our fingertips. I think that we would be much more effective at solving a lot of these problems, in my opinion. But again, we have radicals amongst us. We have emotional people that, social justice warriors that don't want to compromise, and, their own reasoning doesn't hold up to, it doesn't hold up to the light of scrutiny. It doesn't hold up to, logic and debate. It does not. So we may have all the information in the world, but you got people that they want to believe what they want to believe, even though it's like, I'm like, yo, that shit doesn't play out that way. So why are we entertaining this? But anyway, I'm done. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.